Hey folks, Cody here, back with another beginner-friendly bluegrass guitar lesson. I'm a former student of ETSU's Bluegrass and Old Time Country Music program. Up there in Johnson City, Tennessee, on this channel, we're trying to keep bluegrass music alive, spreading the culture out to a wider audience, and I'm breaking down these licks and exercises for you nice and slow. If you're into that sort of thing, I'm trying to get more subscribers than old Taylor Swift, so help me out and help spread this out to a larger audience. But in this lesson, I am focusing on what I'm calling home position here. Where you see my fingers here are where my fingers are basically going to stay throughout the entirety of what I'm going to show you here. Okay, so the goal of this lesson is to not be able to pick out single melodic notes in whatever song we're playing, but we're training our fingers and our muscles in our fingers to sort of instinctively know where we need to go when we're putting runs together, bluegrass runs, and why we're doing that, okay? Now, the way I'm starting this out, let's do a little bit of review. I recommend you go watching some of these lessons. It's going to help you out in how to put all this together. But what we're doing here, at the beginning here, I'm coming from a G chord there in the intro, and I'm integrating this really, really important slide to get to this home base position here, all right? Now, let's focus on this for just a second. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm traveling over the 3rd fret on our G string, all right? Now, when we're in the key of G, which is where we're at in this exercise, that's a really special note in bluegrass music, all right? It's a special note in American music, period. That flattened 3rd right there, that first note there, that is what really defines a lot of bluegrass music, okay? So on that slide there, we're sliding over it, okay? If you don't know the G run, grab the free mini course below where I'm gonna give you most everything you know to really get started on this style of music. It's a free 30-page PDF guide. That's how we're accessing these notes, okay? Or getting into this position rather, okay? So make sure you practice that, okay? Make it nice and clean. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself when you're learning bluegrass with sloppy sounding licks, all right? The important part is we're sliding over that 3rd fret, okay? So that puts us right there and where we're gonna be working off of in this lesson, okay? Now let me point out, we're in the key of G, and our root note there, one of the root note Gs, is right there on the 3rd fret of our high E string, and another one is right there on our D string 5th fret, okay? So those are 2 root notes, okay? Now the way you can think about making up runs and kind of improvising in the key of G is that those 2 notes are probably gonna work out for you, no matter what, okay? So if you get lost, grab this position and do what I'm about to show you here, okay? Okay, so I want to integrate your middle finger here, okay? We're gonna put some bluegrass together. What I want you to do is, your finger is gonna land on that 5th fret D string, but we're gonna hammer on from the 4th fret, and then we're gonna follow through on that high E string, okay? Now pay attention to the rhythm that I'm playing here. It's gonna come really important. All right? It's all kind of one felt swoop. All right? I'm adding a little bit of swing and flair to it. And do that as slow as you have to go. But what you're trying to do is make sure this finger's super curled, that middle finger, and getting that hammer on, okay? And I want you to feel how your 2 fingers, your middle finger and your ring finger, feel on that hammer-on. You're going to use that all over the fretboard as you are learning to put these things or these runs together, and that's just a half-step hammer-on. Now to make a quick point, if we want to imagine that G run, it's these little incremental slides between notes that really help us bring out a lot of bluegrassness, and that is there's one right there, okay? Now hold that thought, and we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna switch up fingers here, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna bar the G, B, and E strings with our pointer finger. So before I was doing this, and now I'm doing that. Okay, so when we play that, it should sound like that, okay? Now using the same rhythm, the same sort of flair swing that I added, we're gonna hammer on the 4th fret with the G string, and then we're gonna follow through right there. So it'll sound like this. All right? You're really gonna have to hold your finger hard to get that to sound nice and clean. Go as slow as you have to go. We're going just like all the way down here. That's the motion. All right? Just like that, okay? And again, we're working off of these home bases, okay? Even though I'm not using my ring finger here, okay? Now try to do that twice in a row and throw in a little bit of rhythm. If you can, keep it going, as if to say, okay, kind of like that. Okay? All right, just like that. So do it slow. You know, I recommend kind of vegging out on the couch and just watching something while you're just kind of practicing that. Okay, now, let's go back and integrate that G run into this exercise, okay? This is the way that I mentally put all of this together, folks. And when you chunk it down and like you're watching the players and they're moving and they're doing this and it's like shifting, this is what they're doing. They just gotten really good at it and they're speeding it up over time. And if you watch these videos and you're subscribing down below, or if you sign up for my course where I've got 85 plus beginner friendly bluegrass guitar lessons with the tabs on screen, that'll really help you, okay? So if you like this learning style and you want to approach it that way, get on in there, folks. I guarantee you're going to have the best value for your money, learn lots. But let's think of that G run and let's just try it, okay? You've got to try to throw it in there, all right? And it's really, really like, save this part of the video here. If you're not trying to put these together through trial and error, you're not going to become a flat picker. Trial and error, noodling around and messing up, and then, you know, sitting there and thinking, why is this not working, and attempting other ways to move your fingers, or maybe your fingers are getting in the way. Just pausing and thinking about all that and just trying to put all this together is really important in this style of music. Tabs are great and you're gonna learn a lot from them. They're kind of like training wheels, and there's nothing wrong with learning from training wheels. But when you have that melody down, you're gonna still be like, well, it needs to have more bluegrass flair to it. That's what I'm teaching you here, okay? Okay, so let's go back to that first example and let's integrate both of those strings in, all right? So the first one we were just kind of going, but now let's just go, all right? So it'll sound like, all right? And you're gonna feel a lot of strain in that finger, okay? You're going to feel these muscles start to work, okay? And I think of right there as like an anchor point when you're in this position, okay? Think of it this way. Here's my default G chord. Watch this, watch my fingers down here. Look at those two strings that are pressed down, okay? And that gives me, you know, the second half of that G tone here, at least in this style of the chord. And then when I'm switched to this one, those two same strings are pressed down just with different fingers, okay? So that's important. I talk about in other videos, just the importance of learning to press down everything with different fingers. It's only gonna help you, but in this case, this is like where your fingers need to be planted to pull off these runs, okay? And they'll come off, but if you just sort of think that like, okay, finger, muscle, right there, this position, everything else is gonna kind of move freely, but you're gonna keep coming back to that, okay? And also your root note G there. So we put that all together with a G run. And I'm not playing that root note on that G run, but you kind of get the point. Okay, so let's go back. What I played at the beginning, or a variation of that, okay? It's not important to go note for note, at least in my opinion, when we're learning, at least in this way. But what I'm doing there is I'm just focusing on that box and I'm integrating just these chromatic intervals. And that is a fancy word that means I'm not skipping frets. I'm working in this box and I'm just kind of working in those notes, all right? And I can do it different ways, and you know, on camera, I'll just kind of, all right, that is just complete improvisation. I probably have never played those notes in that timing and that sequence before, but that is what I encourage you to do. But then you might hit the problem of like, this doesn't sound like bluegrass music. Theirs sounds so much faster and it's more full and blah, blah, blah. So that is how you get yourself out of the box, is to go inside of these boxes, play around with it, do it for hours. Put that Strum Machine app on a G chord, put it at 60 beats per minute. Make sure you're going up, down on your picking pattern. You've got two bluesy sounding hammer-ons you can just work with just for this example. And that, folks, is the way that I recommend learning this style of music. It's So folks, if you like my way of teaching this style of music and you'd like to build up to these instrumentals, go check out Flatpick Foundations. It's my beginner bluegrass guitar course. It was released 3 months ago. There's well over 100 students in there now learning how to flat pick. I think it's important for a couple different reasons. A, to keep this music alive and integrated into our culture in a time where devices and technology is doing a lot of strange things to our culture and to our society. And so by stepping back and just focusing on an unplugged instrument that really gets you out of the screen, I know that sounds ironic, but you do have to learn, and I am an educator and I believe in education, especially in this style of music, to get you over that initial hump. That's oh so important. I went through a structured bluegrass program in my late teens, and I'm a big believer that unless you go through something that teaches you how to understand what you're actually doing on a deeper level and you have that win, you're probably not going to keep learning. That's a big separation. I see it with my friends that had guitars growing up, and then what happened was I joined a program in higher education. I got through that program and it taught me how to put music together, how to instruct it, what makes it, really sound bluegrassy in this context. But if you don't have that, it's really hard to fall in love with it. So that's why I recommend, if you're like sitting there and maybe the YouTube videos help you, but they don't snap it all together, go through the program. It's super affordable. I've got it priced for about the same price as 3 of my private lessons. And you're gonna learn a lot in there, all right, folks? So let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. I'm not gonna just stick to the lessons on this channel. I enjoy going out and playing guitars. I appreciate everybody and you guys watching and everything you do for me. And I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.